Oh boy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for July 16th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 198, and I am Mayor Watt, and that is the Sentient AI's Visualizer.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to Non Sequitur News.
Today we're going to be talking about probing space at high speed, Bennu and the samples. You have to sing it like Benny and the Jets. Bennu and the samples. Bitcoin's creator, judged and replaced. Microbeads from brewery waste. RIAA wants to get to know you. NASA transmits hip-hop to aliens. July snow during a heat wave. And two more. Ordered to evacuate due to dam failure. And not what the doctor ordered. That and maybe some jokes, some snark, anecdote, maybe a couple of giggles.
What type of ASMR is that?
Dam failure ASMR. The sound of, I don't know, dam failure. You want to get into it?
I do.
First article is over on Technology Today. NASA probe tied its own speed record as the fastest human-made object ever. And I thought that it was somebody I know trying to get to a bag of Doritos.
They might have a good competition going with NASA.
That's right. The Parker Solar Probe could go from London to Los Angeles in about 49 seconds. This couldn't be made by Boeing. The article is over at cnet.com by Joe Hindy. The next statement says what I just got done saying. I guess that's it, right? The Parker Solar Probe is the fastest human-made object ever.
I mean, that is really fast.
It's got to be gravitational stuff as well as, regular propulsion, whatever it is that's propelling it. So it's perhaps no surprise that the probe recently tied its own world record as out of this world record as the fastest thing humans have ever made with a clock speed of 394,736 miles per hour. Those are freedom units. In kilometers, it's 635,266 kilometers. Wow. June 29th.
I mean, how fast is the speed of light? Like nowhere near that number?
It's miles per second, like 300 and something thousand miles per. What is the speed of light? I forgot it.
It sounded familiar, but maybe it's because it's the per second, not the hour.
Yeah, it's 300 million meters per second. Just shy. Yeah. So, the particular trip was also noteworthy because it was the first time a human-made object touched the sun.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Did it make it back?
It's probably flying. Well, I don't know. Did it? Let's find out. Let's see. It then uses Venus's gravity as a sort of slingshot to launch itself back at the sun once again. There's an animation that's linked, but I don't know if they'll actually show it. So, just how fast is just shy of 400,000 miles per hour compared with other things? The Parker Solar Probe simply flies. What a weird turn of phrase. Anyway.
Yeah, does that mean like it's really zipping along?
Yeah. Here's some context. Latest SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is just shy of 21,000 miles per hour. A Tesla Plaid went from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat. In that time frame, the probe, traveling at its highest clocked speed, would have gone over 219 miles.
Okay, so it's a little faster than these other things.
Just a little bit. Pretty neat. So there you go. The Helios solar probes also were once the human-made objects that had traveled closest to the sun before the Parker Solar Probe. If I recall correctly, Helios 1 is still out there, I think.
I think so too. And notice it's about half the speed of the current one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Helios got into it, but see, like what they're doing is supposed to be able to. The Helios probes are actually mapping the surface of the sun, like constantly. I remember talking about them, but I don't remember that much. Pretty cool. All right. Well, we're kind of out of this world for a little bit, but some of that outer space has been brought back to Earth. Bennu. You've heard about Bennu, right?
Right. That's the asteroid that we somehow ran into and took a sample of.
Yeah, and it's going to come and destroy us all, right? So Bennu asteroid samples unveiled in a discrete vacuum-packed container. Inside a FedEx box lies a piece of ancient history, extremely ancient history, according to this article. Ta-da! Ann M. Stark from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory put this article together over at phys.org. And they have a picture that's underneath it. Voila! 120 milligrams of genuine Bennu sample. Priceless, probably, in all ways. Here, I'll zoom in.
I mean, didn't you think it was a sample from another asteroid when you looked at it? Like, did it really look authentic?
Yeah, when I saw it, I said, nah, this can't be from Bennu. You know, I hung out with Bennu once, and didn't look like that. Greg Branecka looks in awe as the Bennu sample is removed from the stainless steel container that held it. Yeah, this thing was shipped by FedEx. Do you think there's like FedEx planetary delivery, that kind of thing?
There should be. That would be really neat. But what do you think the rates would be for that?
Priceless. That's all it has written on it. Priceless. Deep pocket. So the material at just 120 milligrams will provide information about the early solar system, planetary formation, and potentially even life on Earth. Bennu is kind of like a hodgepodge of stuff. And
right,
NASA's,
isn't it a bunch of metals?
It's composite, I think, is nothing.
The new one is all metal, I think.
Yeah, the new one is all metal. The one, okay, so OSIRIS-REx took off from Earth, lawn darted into Bennu, launched itself back out, flew by Earth and deposited a sample, and then before crashing into the atmosphere, pointed itself in another direction and shot off towards another asteroid, and all, well, supposedly a metallic asteroid. So Bennu, though, is kind of this hodgepodge, hardly like held together kind of a thing, apparently. It says we're going to look at the composition of different elements to figure out where exactly this asteroid might have formed in the first place. And then they talk about a bunch of other things. Preliminary data by the LLNL team and others indicate that this larger asteroid likely formed in the outer solar system beyond Jupiter. Orbital research has shown that Bennu likely broke off from a much larger carbon-rich asteroid about 700 million to 2 billion years ago. Probably spent some of that time in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and has drifted much closer to Earth since then. Because its materials are so pristine and the asteroid has never been heated above approximately 150 degrees C, Bennu may contain organic molecules like those that could have been involved with the start of life on Earth.
Oh no, is that like the primordial soup?
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that you go, bad bat. Anyway, pretty cool. I can't imagine being involved in this kind of stuff. You know,
Right, it's like, what'd you do today? Oh, I intersected an asteroid and whatever.
I got out of bed only because I was reaching for my phone and fell out. Let's keep going. Before I finish that next article there, if you are looking to get all of the show notes, all of the articles that we talk about are always linked. And ohmTown, the bot that runs ohmTown, populates the chat with all of the articles that we talk about. And now they're in the VOD. So they should be in the chat over on YouTube as well. And if you want to, so you have to hit !NSN, so non sequitur news. If you want all of the podcast show notes, then you can hit !show notes, and that'll give you all of the syntax for the other shows. We have 7 of them. We do them all now, or well, we have 6 others on top of non sequitur news, which is a daily show. Oops, 1 second. But we do all of the other 6 shows on Sundays now, starting at somewhere between 10 and 12. It depends on when we can actually get it all completed and set up. So to find out when we kick off, you really should follow us either here on Twitch, twitch.tv/ohmTown, or over on YouTube, youtube.com/ohmTown. I say both because I never know who is going to be hearing it from the podcast, because all 7 of the shows are podcasts. Again, 6 of them are weekly. 1 of them is a daily non sequitur news. And if you want to get to those podcasts, you hit !pod in the chat, and it'll give you all of the podcasts. Dun, dun, dun. You don't have to go to Apple to get them, though. You can catch the pod wherever you catch pod. All right, let's get on with it. This is something that I've been wanting to talk about deeper in the context of this, because I actually talk about cryptocurrency on the regular. So probably about once a month I give a talk about cryptocurrency, but a particular context of it, and that is that it has no actual value. But that's a fight for another day.
Tell that to all the investors.
All the billionaires out there that are crypto bros, yes. Well, Bitcoin was not created by Craig Wright, says UK courts. So nobody knows who the creator of this cryptocurrency is. I think it's really fascinating. They hold something to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars of Bitcoin still.
Right, a huge percentage of it, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact amount anymore because it changes depending on the price. So anyway, not to get into the reeds of that, but right around the time people started looking for the creator, Satoshi Nakamoto is the name of the person on the white paper, Craig Wright popped up. And that person says that they are, and other people are saying you are not. Other people are looking around and they point their finger at somebody that might be Satoshi Nakamoto. And when you knock on that person's door, they go, I am not Satoshi Nakamoto. So
do you
nobody
think the
really
person
knows.
just doesn't want to be identified, or is the person even alive anymore?
Nobody knows. But it is.
By the way, the founder has about 51 billion, which is about 1 million, a little bit over Bitcoin, they believe.
Themselves, yeah. And it fluctuates wildly depending on the price of Bitcoin at the time that it's calculated. I don't know when that number that you're saying.
That was from February 2024, so that's a little out of date.
Yeah, fairly accurate. So a lawsuit popped up because, well, Craig Wright wants to be known as the person who created Bitcoin, but I thought that it would have been fairly simple. Okay, show your code.
Show anything connected to the creation of it, right?
Right.
Which would probably be the code, but
right.
And also, why would somebody, assuming this is really not the creator of it, like why would somebody want to draw this attention to themselves? Like it's very polarizing.
That I really don't know, because why would you want to come out and say that you're the person that's worth X amount of billions of dollars and then not have the billions of dollars to actually back up, you not being abducted or something, I mean,
that's
because
exactly it.
It's like
you're a target of people for financial reasons. You're a target of people that have problems with cryptocurrency. Like, it's just an odd stance.
And it would be fine, I suppose, if they pop up. They say the person is an Australian scientist who has long claimed to be the creator of Bitcoin, has now been referred to British prosecutors for allegedly committing perjury. So you would think that it would be pretty damn easy to just demonstrate that you are the one. Here is some of my beta code. Here is some of my trial and error,
Right. Here's my file from whatever year Bitcoin was created.
Or prior, yeah. These are the numbers that I seeded the economy with. Because for it to have any value, you have to have people adopting it. And the market was seeded previously. People created accounts and got Bitcoin, while that the founder retained 1 million of them, but all the rest are inside the blockchain and you mine for them. Well, it's a little out of hand, impacting the entire grids of some countries, impacting their overall country level manufacturing processes, because so much power is being pulled out of the grid just to look for Bitcoin, which has no value inherent in itself. Okay? It is pegged to the US dollar and or by proxy fiduciary instruments in your location, whatever country you live in. If you transfer a Bitcoin into US dollars, it's worth X amount. If you transfer it into won, it's Y dollar, if it's wherever you are. But it has no inherent value because nobody says, hey, how much bubble gum can I buy with this Bitcoin? No, they say the Bitcoin is worth 5 cents, or I'm sorry, the bubble gum is worth 5 cents. I need to move the decimal point over on my Bitcoin so that I can buy it in US dollars. Yeah. When you ask somebody how much wealth they have, they say US dollars if they're in the United States. They don't go, oh, I have 1 million Bitcoin.
I've got X amount of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Now, that's a philosophical discussion, not really one that everybody really buys into, because money is money, doesn't matter how I get it, is the ideological bent for some people. But I don't know what the game is that this person is pursuing.
Unless they're trying to, like, if, I don't know, were they trying to leverage this for some other financial opportunity? But it just seems like there's tremendous downside to it, particularly, like, if they were the creator, why remain anonymous for so long and then come out of the wood? Although I guess they have been claiming for a while. But if they're not, why draw all the negative attention and not get any reward for announcing it either?
Yeah, well, I mean, how about this? If you're the creator of Bitcoin, log into your wallet and transfer from the founding account. Just go, do it real quick.
Seems pretty easy, right?
Yeah. Send me $1 million and I'll file a friend of the court brief.
Right. Exactly. I mean, even the court or somebody could have set up an account to do this, I suppose.
Yeah, on some exchange that'll eventually be compromised and millions of dollars of real money lost because somebody transferred real currency into this cryptocurrency. Let's move on. Let's have closure with another issue. Non Sequitur News is where this is housed. Judge removed from Young Thug trial. New judge assigned. So...
that took long enough, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it should not have taken as long. Well, like a lot of things, it shouldn't take as long as it does. But I guess the judge presiding over the trial of rapper Young Thug was ordered off the case Monday afternoon after 2 defendants requested his recusal. So, if you don't know about this, there's a trial going on with Young Thug basically being named as the de facto leader of an organization, Thug Life. Danica Pineda and Abby Cruz put this article together over at abcnews.go.com. So, the kicker here is that there was an ex-parte communication that took place, and that should never happen, because it was with a witness that, once found out, everything came into question as to what went on in that meeting. And instead of the judge saying, oh, this is what we talked about, and coming clean about it, they said, how did you find out about it?
What's worse than that, right? The attorney was put in jail.
Right, I was just about to get there. Yeah. So in June, Young Thug's attorney, Brian Steele, filed a motion to remove Glanville from the trial and disqualify the judge from taking any further action on the case, citing Glanville's secret meeting with the witness and prosecution. When prompted by Glanville to provide details on how he obtained the information, Steele refused to do so, which led Glanville to hold Steele in contempt and sentence him to 20 days in jail. His request, other than going, are you out of your mind, was, if you're going to put me in jail, put me with my client so that I can discuss the case. And by the way,
very smart attorney.
By the way, we still want to know what the hell y'all talked about, right?
Right. Well, you put up a bunch of smoke, but he still didn't address the issue.
Yeah. So I think it was really an abuse all around, not only abuse of the court system, but the punitive element of putting the person in jail for contempt for not disclosing what would be client attorney privileged. It's privileged information, potentially. But somebody knew that this person did something unethical, not part of the practice, the professional conduct between attorneys, the state, and the court. So I thought it was really interesting. We called it weeks ago that this person was going to get punted.
We did, but don't you think there's another issue in here that doesn't seem to be addressed? The other party to the meeting?
Oh, right. Well, the prosecution was just there, right? They were like, well, we're just having a discussion. Right?
They might have held the meeting. I mean, we don't know any of the details of the meeting because that's the whole crux of this issue, but it seems like the prosecution is at fault too. But again, we don't know all the facts.
Yep. It says Judge Glanville and the prosecutors have run afoul of their duties under the law. Mr. Williams is grateful for the reviewing court agreed with him and entered the order recusing and disqualifying Judge Glanville from presiding over Mr. Williams' case. Steele said in a statement, "We look forward to proceeding with a trial judge who will fairly and faithfully follow the law." Yeah, I'm really curious what's going to happen with Glanville, though.
Okay, but I agree. So this party, though, requested that Krause recuse, which, because there's a tie between those two, but then Krause said, right? Isn't Krause the one who said, yep, we're going to have the recusal? Or am I getting the parties mixed up? Yeah.
Krause said that she found nothing improper about Glanville's meeting, but said that she still ordered Glanville to be recused in order to preserve public trust.
So not only was Steele trying to get Glanville removed, they were saying Krause isn't qualified to answer that question.
Well, and based on how they're answering the question, they're not qualified to sit for the trial, because if you have an ex parte communication with a witness and the prosecution during the trial, this isn't something before the trial when witnesses are being debriefed and documents generated off of the questioning. That's one thing. You can have conversations, but it's usually with their attorney present. That attorney, or that person's attorney, apparently was not present unless they were on the prosecution side. Well, that isn't actually what. Yeah. So I think all around this just looks really bad for the justice system in general. So I would probably want Kraus removed as well. Somebody from another state needs to be read in, so that they're not, because who knows how many, 6 degrees of separation.
Exactly. How many layers here? And how
Yeah.
many judges are in this particular court, and how many have they already gone through? This is really interesting.
Yeah, and this is going to be a fascinating delay because they're going to have to brief themselves on the historical record of this entire case and all of the complexity of it. It's really wild. The motion suggests that Kraus could not be objective in her ruling and cited a $2,000 contribution from Glanville to Kraus's re-election campaign in April 2024.
So 3 months ago.
Yeah, circle the wagon.
No connection, right?
Nothing at all. Moving on. Next article's over in Technology Today. Microbeads made from brewery waste can contribute to a plastic-free future. Plastic microbeads, those tiny troublemakers found in personal care products of the early 90s to the late 2010s, wreak havoc on the environment. These minuscule bits, smaller than a sesame seed, escape the clutches of water treatment plants, accumulating in oceans and rivers where they pose a threat to marine life. Ta-da! So Amy McMacken and Sebastian Cardinal from The Conversation put this article together, and it's published over at techexplore.com. What's up?
Interesting, because they normally publish at phys.org, I think, from The Conversation.
Oh, I think everything is tied together, remember? So, thankfully,
like
soaps
the
and
court
scrubs,
system.
like everything, we can start talking about the microplastics in 1990s era beauty products, and we end up talking about SpaceX, because there's all these ties. It's like what is it really? A yarn board, but it's also referred to as a murder board.
Murder board, yeah.
So you just follow a line, peel back layer after layer of onion, and you end up going, this is actually brought to you by, ambergris from a whale 250 years ago. Hey, I'm just saying, things are tied together. So we've gotten rid of these little microbeads, but they've actually been still in the system. In recent years, many countries have recognized these microbeads as a source of marine plastic pollution and banned them for personal hygiene products, but microplastics still exist. They're finding them in humans. Every element of tissue that has been sampled so far has had microplastics embedded in it. In you dear citizen of ohmTown. So instead of relying on synthetic plastics, research shows that a treasure trove of possibilities is hidden within bio-waste. One such gem is brewer spent grain, or BSG, the leftovers from brewing beer. Inexpensive and abundant BSG is used in animal feed, biogas production, compost, and fertilizer. And it's pretty nutrient rich, even though...
Right, and I guess it breaks down.
Yeah.
Because it's just natural items.
Yeah, so it says more recently BSG is used as a protein and fiber-rich ingredient in crackers, breads, and cookies. Once it's sterilized, I don't know how much of a flavor it imparts into those, but the main molecule constituent in the plant cell walls, cellulose, is a key component in brewer spent grain. All of the sugars have been pulled out of it as much as possible so that yeast can nom on it and turn it into alcohol and toot, and then you got beer. So
I'm sure that's how beer companies like to describe their beer process and products.
That's the bumper sticker on the ohmTown brewery. ohmTown beer, brought to you by yeast toots. So trees are felled, debarked, chipped, pulped, bleached. Then the cellulose that remains is shaped into its desired final form. cellulose fibers don't dissolve in most solvents, and thankfully so. Otherwise, cotton t-shirts would be washed away in the rain, and the acetone-soaked tissues would melt instead of removing nail polish. That's gross. So in the cellulose processing industry, few chemicals are available to overcome cellulose's resistance. Most options are ill-reputed for their instability, high toxicity, high cost, or poor recyclability. However, sodium hydroxide dissolved in water in various concentrations provides a more sustainable option. So they're fine-tuning the process to turn BSG as our cellulose-rich starting material into these biocompatible, not quite plastic beads, or other materials. So BSG-based beads perform better than other plastic microbead alternatives currently available, such as ground coconut shells and apricot pits. These are actually used in as a replacement to harsher sandblasting, biodegradable sandblasting solutions.
Maybe that's why people don't want them in their soaps. Like they're a little too intense.
What, these kind of things?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well,
if you can use them for sandblasting, you might not want them to wash your arms or whatever.
There's a couple of soaps that are out there that have that kind of stuff in it. You know, that just made me think, because Mayor Watt has that kind of soap, and I'm really curious where that's going now. They're not plastic. It's all natural. It's basically, I think it's little coconut shell fragments. So I'm wondering where those little bits go. I might have to look at it. Doggone it. Now you're making me think about that. Because it was supposed, the stuff is all green, natural, like I can compost it. Anyway, the transformation of brewery waste into exfoliating microbeads represents yet another step forward to a more sustainable future. Basically getting rid of the hazardous plastic that doesn't biodegrade, and it transfers into the food system. So we need to get rid of the plastics, and people are actually talking about just how pervasive microplastics are in their relation to illnesses that are affecting. There's an uptick of various illnesses, including cancers, and it seems to be aligned with the outbreak, essentially, of the use of plastics. Now, correlation is not causation. So there are researchers that are looking into it. I am not one of those researchers, but I do follow a bunch of news. That's why I talk about it here in ohmTown. Anyway, getting away from plastic is kind of, it should be a societal goal, because it's so hazardous to being a human and all of the animal and life around us.
And we've seen that microplastics are everywhere, in terms of everywhere in the human body, in animal species that you wouldn't expect, in geographic locations that you wouldn't expect.
Everywhere. It's fascinating. And I don't think that it's really high on anybody's radar. But it will be as time goes on, because it's finding its way further and further up the ladder. Let's keep going. Moving on. Next article's over in Non Sequitur News as well. RIAA's copyright suit against Verizon. Just the latest move by the RIAA to kick people off the internet. So, it's not just Verizon, by the way. The RIAA is suing artificial intelligence companies and basically anybody that comes close to trampling on what might be perceived a threat to artists' rights, but for the fact that I think that a little snippet of sound shouldn't be grounds. Well, let's just talk about this. The RIA just won't quit in attacking users on the internet and trying to get them banned from using the internet entirely. The latest news is that all major record labels have sued Verizon for not kicking users the RIAA accuses but has not litigated against of being infringers off the internet. So that's something that's been happening for decades now. Back in the time of Napster, if you were found to be located at an IP address, they would sue to have you kicked off the internet, that IP address. But an IP address does not make an offender. It's just an address. And even that can actually be spoofed to some degree, depending on how the network is all constructed. But there's
Right, or it could be a location with more than one user.
Right. Yeah. Like I give this as a demonstration as well. There is a location that has 25,000 computers in it, but it has one exit node. And so if you ask what your IP address is within the network, it will spit out that exit node location. But if you look at the underpinnings of the network that you happen to be sitting in, it will give you a different internal network address, network translation, and all of that. Anyway, so just because you downloaded something on a network doesn't mean that you're the pirate, but that IP address flags that entire enterprise as being a pirate. So the article is over at techdirt.com. Mike Masnick is the author, and this is coming out of the They Always Hated the Internet department. They always have.
I like how TechDirt always has a tailored department.
Yep, it's very focused, very niche, depending on the article. So 12 years ago, TechDirt wrote about a secret plan by the RIA to pretend that copyright law already required that ISP shut down the internet accounts of users caught infringing. The relevant copyright law, DMCA 512, does have an awkwardly worded section on termination, i.e., they have the right to terminate. Well, it has adopted and reasonably implemented and informed subscribers and account holders of the service provider system or network of a policy that provides for the termination in appropriate circumstances of subscribers and account holders of the service provider system or network who are repeat infringers. To be an infringer, you should be litigated. Because
right,
it can't
how
be
do they determine if you actually infringed?
Right. You must prove. So they even say it right there. What constitutes repeat infringers? What are the appropriate circumstances? What is reasonably implemented? Plus, access to the internet nowadays should be, I think, codified in law. It should be an absolute. You have the right. Why? Because the only way to get information in today's world is pretty much online. Good luck finding libraries that have comprehensive knowledge. Most don't have a law component, so that people who can't afford an attorney, who are defending themselves in a case, have access to justice. And that isn't necessarily possible in today's age without the internet. And that's just one example, right? If you're looking about medicine, if you're looking at maybe just bringing it back to the other things, you want to brew beer, you need to be able to look it up. If you're starting a career, you need to be able to do research into your career and apply for jobs, and all of that kind of stuff requires the internet. I think anything kicking me off the internet, unless I am a criminal, I guess, even then, even criminals in jail
even
have
then,
access.
most criminals are not eliminated from an internet or ISP or whatever.
Yeah, well, I was going to say something, but anyway, the only real way to know if someone is a repeat infringer is not based on a claimed copyright holder sending notices, but on a court ruling that an individual infringed on someone's right or copyright, and it's been proven. And then do it again and again and again. Then you're a repeat offender. I guess you could be really hardline about it. Well, they go really deep into this. There are all these sorts of problems with this. First, under the Supreme Court's Packingham decision, it's reasonable to argue that any law that kicks people off the internet is a requirement and it is inherently unconstitutional, As Justice Kennedy wrote in the decision, citing Ashcroft v. Free Speech Coalition, it is well established that, as a general rule, the government may not suppress lawful speech as the means to suppress unlawful speech. Which, unconstitutionality of
like
speech,
a blanket
you
action
can't communicate.
or whatever. Yeah.
So they kick you off the internet, and thus your ability to speak out is suppressed. So this is kind of the flip side of the DMCA, where saying anything is unconstitutional is the battering ram of supposed freedom, but not everything is unconstitutional. Not everything is constitutional. I don't want to go down the wrong road, or on a different road. Like I say repeatedly, a lot of things are interconnected, and the constitutionality of something, only if a court kicks you off is you not being allowed on the internet a constitutional issue. Now, if mom kicks you off, it's not a constitutional issue. Because it isn't the state.
I would agree.
So the Constitution
Even if
is,
somebody claims to the contrary.
Yeah, just so everybody realizes this, the Constitution is a control on the government, not on people. We have laws that control the people. The Constitution stops the government from doing something like, well, and in this, it would be the absurdity of this. A company walks up and says, "You've downloaded 5 things. I'm going to have you kicked off the internet." It's asinine. So there you go. There's a lot more to this article. They actually have the complaint posted. How many pages is it? It's 28 pages, but usually there's about 300 words per page.
There's a lot of plaintiffs in this.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of what?
Plaintiffs?
Oh, right. Well, yeah. Look at that. It's basically every major music group suing Verizon. I wonder what the meeting room is all about. You know? It's like 500 feet long, and there's just one Verizon attorney on one side.
Oh, that would be great.
Completely surrounded by 250 plaintiffs' attorneys. Okay, let's just keep going, though. We'll come back and talk about this because there's issues with net neutrality now, and I think copyright is still back in the 1800s.
We'll see a lot more of copyright in the next decade, right? Because it's not based on anything really
modern.
Or a lot of it's not based on modern stuff. So I think it's going to be modernized, which means we'll probably see a lot of litigation about it.
Yeah, calling it the Digital Millennium Copyright Act did not pull it into the 21st century. So, and just keeping on with the music theme, which I did not intentionally do any of these links from one to another, but NASA transmits a hip hop song to deep space for the first time. The stars above and on stage, I guess on Earth, aligned as an inspirational message and lyrics from the song The Rain, Supa Dupa Fly by hip-hop artist Missy Elliott. And I don't know if I could possibly say that title any more mayorally.
Any non-hip-hop hop.
Yeah,
I can't even say it.
Any non-hip-hop way. Anyway, they were beamed to Venus via NASA's Deep Space Network. This is the space-based internet transceiver that transmits data faster than anything on Earth. Any wireless thing on
Can
Earth.
we please get that in our local cable companies?
Yeah, I love this. So the agency's JPL in Southern California sent the transmission at 10:05 a.m. Pacific on Friday, July 12th. But we found out about it today, the last 24 hours. Non Sequitur News is basically every 24 hours we do the show, and that's what our information is based off of. So I'm not sure why they have such a hostile picture. It shows a volcano
Because they probably don't have a lot of pictures of Venus.
of Venus. Yeah,
They're like, here, give me a picture of Venus. I need something, anything.
why? Yeah, why do this though? It's okay. Anyway, I don't want to nitpick that. I don't want to nitpick anything about this. I think this is all amazing. So, as the largest and most sensitive telecommunications service of NASA's Space Communications and Navigation program, the DSN, has an array of giant radio antennas that allow missions to track, send commands, receive scientific data from spacecraft venturing to the moon and beyond. To date, the system has transmitted only one other song into space, the Beatles Across the Universe, making the transmission of Elliot's song the first for hip hop and NASA. That's all there really is to this, by the way. There's a video that shows something. I can only assume that maybe that's Venus. I don't know what that actually is. So
yeah, I wish there was a caption there.
So here's the deal about this. The song traveled about 158 million miles from Earth to Venus, the artist's favorite planet, apparently, transmitted at the speed of light, or near it, because nothing goes the speed of light. The radio frequency signal took nearly 14 minutes to reach the planet. The transmission was made by the 34-meter wide Deep Space Station 13 radio dish antenna, located at the DSN's Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex near Barstow in California. Coincidentally, the DSS-13 also is named Venus. So do you think that was actually true? Like it's a coincidence, or did they?
Well, no, I think they picked that one because of that.
Yeah, not a coincidence. So pretty cool. Elliot said, I still can't believe I'm going out of this world with NASA through the Deep Space Network when The Rain becomes the first ever hip hop song to transmit to space. Pretty cool. I chose Venus because it symbolizes strength, beauty, and empowerment, and I am so humbled to have the opportunity to share my art and my message with the universe.
Hey, that is really cool. Plus, that's a pretty neat claim to fame for any music artist.
Yeah, pretty cool. And this network has been in operation continuous operation since 1963.
Okay, that's surprising.
Yeah. And it goes out beyond that. There was a transmission out by, where was it? Uranus or something like that. They did some really deep, far out, like, I don't know where it was. I'll have to look again. There was like an ultra long distance, high speed communication that they wanted to test.
That was the one where it went really fast, right?
Yeah, but it was
we
the
reported on
out.
a few months ago. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Let's go on to the next article. We've got 3 more, including this. Philadelphia Airport had a July snow during a heat wave. The National Weather Service recorded an interesting weather pattern over the weekend at Philadelphia International Airport. Trace amounts of snow in the middle of a heat wave in July. That can't be good.
I will say I looked ahead at this one because I went, what is this? Yeah, that picture is not that, unfortunately.
So the article is over at qz.com or Quartz. Aaron Marquis from Jalopnik put the article together, but it's published over at qz.com. The National Weather Service recorded trace amounts of snow on a 90, it says plug degree day. 90 plug? What?
Maybe plus?
That must be plus. Then, okay, whatever. That typo has been in there all day. All right. Anywho, so what do you think?
I guess everybody else is reading about the heat wave and not the snow.
Did they mistake everything on fire as something that was snow? Or was it legit snow?
They had hail.
Oh my God. Thunderstorms moving through the area produced small hail, which counts as trace of snow in NWS's. The National Weather Service.
Yeah, National Weather Service. Yeah.
Every time I see NWS, I think it's New South Wales. Anyway, climate report, since hail is frozen precipitation. Hey, look, it's 8:52. No shit news. Anyway, the Weather Service says that while this phenomenon is rare, it is not unheard of, and there have been daily recorded snowfall during the summer months 14 times since 1911.
Okay, 14 times in over 100 years. So kind of rare.
Yeah, it's
And
really
in
interesting.
fact, look at the last 5 of them have been in the last 20 years.
Yeah. There's been a big gap too in 2011. But that's actually daily record snowfall in summer months. But how many times is there a record heat and you get snow?
Well, that's true. Maybe once, probably this last weekend.
Oh, and by the way, one of the things about this is people go, oh, well, it snowed. Well, that's not really the problem. The problem is with climate change comes erratic weather conditions where predictability falls out the window. And while we are seeing these irrationally high temperatures, we're also witnessing planes suffering from increasing turbulence where they don't even know where it's coming from in time to remedy it. Normally, a plane can see based on the weather forecast that there's turbulence ahead. But lately, there have been a lot of planes that are being disrupted all around the world because of turbulence that is shockingly powerful. One person was found after turbulence in the luggage compartment, the overhead luggage compartment. That's how
Which
serious.
doesn't even sound
legit.
possible.
Yeah.
And I think I saw an article in ohmTown today about turbulence, but it wasn't submitted for the show.
Gotcha. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Do a search for, not you.
It's in Greenagram.
Oh, well, look at that. Look, we have a show. Here, I'm going to move on.
We have a channel.
We have a channel. We don't have the show yet, but Greenagram is all about that kind of stuff. Eco anything. So that is where I would talk about, for instance, that I grow microgreens and I'm into hydroponics and I have my own system and blah, blah, blah. As well as weather, climate change, science.
And also the brewers' stuff being converted into microbeads.
Yep, all of that. So let's keep going. You see how everything is connected. Once you pull back the first layer of the onion, you see more and more connections. You see layer after layer of things intermingled. And that's why I created ohmTown, because there's so much information overload. The only way for me to manage it was to use news aggregation and get rid of a lot of the noise that I see in every other service out there. Only ohmTown does what ohmTown does. Anyway, Illinois residents ordered to evacuate as a dam failure. Oh, no, it's a dam that's failing is imminent. Residents within the designated gray box risk zone near the dam have been told to evacuate their homes immediately. This is a different dam, right? That other dam actually failed.
Yeah, I forgot where that was, but it was not in Illinois.
Yeah. So, did you happen to read ahead on this one? No,
I did not.
Bilal Rahman over at Newsweek.com put this article together. Locals have been urged to abandon their homes amid extensive flood damage. In a social post, the Washington County, Illinois Emergency Management Agency said, attention, the failure of the Nashville Dam is imminent. Wow. Please evacuate your home at this time. If you're in a gray box risk zone, you need to evacuate now! Exclamation point. So they said the failure occurred after over 5 inches of rainfall. And my understanding is that what ends up happening is debris builds up inside the dam. Water can't evacuate. They can't open the sluice gates to allow water to exit at a rate that is manageable. And it eventually rises up over the dam itself or goes around the dam. And if it goes over the edges, the corners, the where it meets the soil, it can just erode. And then from that point on, the dam will fail. Depending on how it's made, it's pretty simple, particularly earthen dams. If it flows over an earthen dam, it will erode it. So they began evacuation warnings. So residents that living near Nashville City Reservoir who have been advised to evacuate have been directed to a shelter, et cetera, et cetera. You can follow the link over to this. The reason why I chose this was because of that messaging. This is a climate change born issue. The dam has been there. It could have stayed forever, but because climate change, you're seeing increasing chaos in the weather systems.
Right, and 5 inches of rain is actually a lot in a short period of time, but 5 inches of rain should not be enough to cause a dam failure.
Right.
But it's probably coming off of other heavy rains or drought or just any number of extreme conditions.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that after a drought, when a rain comes, the earth just soaks up all of that water. Oh, yummy, yummy, right? But that's not how it works. It actually absorbs a little bit, and then all the rest sheets off until the rest of the soil can absorb as it trickles through the matrix. That's why you get flash flooding in deserts. That's why you get flash flooding off of the mountains, because only so much gets absorbed and the rest just kind of just runs off, fills up valleys, and ends up going through neighborhoods. Okay, let's go on to our last article, and this one's over in Non Sequitur News as well. Millions of Rite Aid customers' information stolen in a hack. What we know. Initial reports from Ransom Hub estimate that 45 million customers were affected, but Rite Aid said the real number was far lower. That's right, because the people who have been hacked know exactly what the limit of their hack is.
Most definitely.
Suzanne Blake is the author of this article over at Newsweek.com. Ransom Hub, the ransomware gang claiming responsibility for the hack, estimated that 45 million customers were affected, but Rite Aid told PC Magazine that the actual number was far lower. The drugstore company said that the data breach, which happened on June 6th, concerned customer information from 2017 to 2018, so it's an old data pot. During the breach, a hacker pretended to be a company employee with their login credentials and stole data. Certain data associated with the purchase or attempted purchase of specific retail products, according to Rite Aid. So,
wait a second. Was the theft recent or was the theft during that time? Like, there are two things in here that look inconsistent, but...
So the breach took place on June 6th, but the data that was stolen was from 2017 and 2018. So they say here data was only stolen from customers between June 6th, 2017 and July 30th, 2018. But that right there makes it really confusing because it happens to line up with the June 6th, 2017 date.
Oh yeah, that is odd.
So most likely the quote here from Reason Labs founder and CTO Andrew Newman says, most likely the data stolen will be sold on the dark web in bulk to the highest bidder. Yeah, that's okay. Rite Aid
I guess every day we're going to have a major breach, right?
That's right. Well, I mean, that's going to keep on happening until, well, things like what I'm trying to do, which is promote the idea of a baseline technical sophistication and awareness, takes place. And it is one of the most difficult things for people to understand that cybersecurity and technology goes beyond your phone. And you have to become socially aware, physically aware, and not just savvy with TikTok. So one of the side effects of this, though, is that Rite Aid isn't as big as it used to be, and competitors are kind of nomming on the ends. So like Rite Aid is collapsing a little bit as places that they used to be are being taken over by their competitors. says this could obviously be a problem for many consumers since the actual products purchased were disclosed. This means that customers' potentially sensitive medical information is now potentially out there for purchase and pilfer. And it could be used against somebody. But look, at this point, the people who might have been in this might have also been in the genetics breach from whatchamacallit.
23andMe.
Yeah, 23 and Everybody Knows Me. Anybody who submitted genetic information to that organization has your genetic information now out in the wild, depending on who's buying it, right?
I mean, and that sounds like some of the worst data that could be released, because it's about yourself, it's about your family.
Yep. And connections. This could be ugly if somebody, like the one person that got access to the psychologist's reports and was blackmailing people.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Using the information from the counselor's notes. It was horrible. That person actually got prosecuted. But eventually, depending on where these people are located, the hackers themselves, they will get caught, right? In the United States, your chances of going without punishment for hacking is low. It's when you're overseas and you don't have an exchange, a partnership relationship with a country. That's
like
when,
it's a non-extradition.
No, it's worse than that. They're ideologically hostile towards the United States, and they don't care. And go ahead, do whatever you want. So we'll see what happens with this, but I can guarantee you that cybersecurity related matters will continue for the foreseeable future. Not until quantum computers, I would say, and even then, there's older data, organizations that can't afford high-end security professionals, etc. People just don't care. They think it's somebody else's problem. All kinds of things. But, everybody hates an attorney until you need an attorney. Everybody hates a cop until you need a cop, Yeah. That's just kind of how it works. Everybody thinks security is everybody else's problem until you are compromised. And then you're like, well, what the hell?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You don't need anybody, right? Until
you
have
really
some
need,
issue.
Yeah. You need, as a citizen, to speak to your representatives and demand the right to be forgotten, so that if you want to, you can contact Rite Aid and say, I am demanding that you delete all of the records about me because I don't trust your silly ass and I am breaking up with you. Basically. Because companies can do that to you. Companies can prevent you from doing business with them because of a chargeback, because it hurts their credit rating. So if they can end the relationship with you, why can't you end the relationship with them wholesale? Because your data is stored, as this suggests, at least 7 years back. So, and there are data retention laws, but anyway, in every organization a little different. But at any rate, I want it enumerated. I want it as canon in the United States, the right to be forgotten, which doesn't exist. Because the ones that benefit the most from retaining all of the data forever and selling you off in tranches are the policymakers. They're the ones that write the rules. Typically referred to as regulatory capture. So anyway, enough of my soapboxing. We are all done for today. So I'm going to reboot the computer, and that'll snap us back to the front page of ohmTown.com, where all of our news that we talk about is aggregated into 6 main categories, 50 channels. We call them channels, but only 7 of them are shows here on Twitch and YouTube. So I hope you enjoy the show. Go tell a friend. Drag them kicking and screaming into one of the chats. That would be awesome. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us everywhere. And that's it. So good night, everybody. I am Mayor Watt, and that is the Sentient AI from the future.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News.
Hey, Kath. People are lurking. Welcome to the show. I hope that you didn't just come in, but you are awesome. Thank you very much for sticking around. And we'll see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. This show is on Sunday. It's going to be either at 10 or noon. It really depends on how fast we can get in gear and get it all lined up. But, oh, you were here for all of it. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.